Yes, it did the thing. Yes, it did. We are live streaming and I'm recording. Hannah's going to be so proud of me. I pressed all the buttons. Okay, so let's go. Welcome to Rysia. We are so glad that you're here because we've done some work this summer accrediting course that you're about to tell us about. And I'm really excited to be able to promote and enable tutors to access all the knowledge that they need. Now, Qualified Tutor has been delivering training since 2019, and my focus is always on pedagogy. It's not really on the business of tutoring, because the one thing that I haven't done is build a tutoring business, because I've done this instead. And so it's a perfect example of letting the experts, letting the people who have done the thing share what they've learned. And I think what's so lovely about that is how generous the positioning is. So you should all know by now that Qualified Tutor is all about being curious, generous, and reflective. And everything that I know about Rysia so far really epitomizes those three behaviors. The curiosity of coming into Qualified Tutor and finding out what accrediting a course might look like and why being a member might help. The generosity of sharing your hard-earned learning to teach other people how to build group courses, and the reflectiveness of the conversation that we've been having now on how to make it work best is absolutely awesome. I also really want to give you credit, Rysia, for showing up like such a professional. Your background is gorgeous, your lighting is gorgeous, and that makes such a difference to the tutor's experience, that it's one of those things that I like to highlight when it happens, because for a student, it makes all the difference to see a tutor really showing up prepared. So this session is not going to be my voice in the slightest. It's going to be finding out about what Rysya's built and how it can serve you. So over to you, my friends.
Okay, thanks, Julia. Let me just share my screen. Here we go. Can everyone see my screen all right? Yeah, it's all good. Right. So hi, everybody. I'm a bit nervous, so just bear with me. I'm recognising a few faces, obviously, here that I've either sort of spoken to or have bought my course and stuff. So hello to everybody. So what I'm going to do today is basically, as you know, talk about mastering group tuition. So I'm looking to my left here, so I've got another screen here. So basically what I've done is, because I do like the tutor toolkit, and if you don't mind, I'm going to talk about it, but at the end of the session rather than now. I just want to get into the good stuff for you guys first. So what I've basically done is I've put everything that I've got in my group toolkit into today's session. So there's about 60 slides here all together. So if you have any questions at any point, obviously just ask or put them into the chat. I'm not actually looking at the chat at the moment. So maybe sort of Julia can help me with that. But please feel free to sort of interact, and ask at any point. So, I want it to be as interactive as possible. Okay. So what I'm planning to do today is basically there's sort of 5 sections to this. So I'm going to sort of split it up into, the first section is how do you sort of sell groups to parents, okay? Because obviously that's an area which a lot of tutors tend to struggle with, particularly if you've just left the classroom. You might think, oh, you've got no idea how to sell things, or you might feel a bit sort of intimidated by that idea. So I'm going to talk to you about that and the strategies that I use or have used before. Also going to talk to you about what's your niche. So obviously this is all over sort of the internet if you're researching to starting a tuition business, defining your niche, etc. So I'll talk to you about that from my point of view. The third part is group logistics. So when I've spoken to tutors before, a lot of tutors say to me, well, actually, I'm really confident with doing one-to-one tuition, but when it comes to groups, I really actually don't have much of an idea of how can I do a group session online and how can I make it effective and interactive, etc. How does it work? What times do you do, etc. So I'm going to look at that as well. Then I'm going to look at marking, feedback and homework. And I'll talk to you about some strategies with that with regards to group tuition. And then also, obviously, I'm a secondary teacher, I'm a science teacher. So I'm going to look at Key Stage 3. So this, won't apply to primary teachers, but that's something to look at as well. Okay. So again, I haven't got the chat open, so I don't know if I'm going to say anything, but has anybody got any questions before we start about anything? Sorry, I'm going into teacher mode. Okay, right. So let's have a look first of all then about how to sell groups to parents. Okay.
Nisha, to reassure you, I will let you know if there's anything juicy happening in the chat right now. It's only banter about junk food between me and Helen. Let's stop.
All right. Okay, no worries. Brilliant. So the first part, like I say, is basically how do you sell groups to parents? Okay, so I'm just going to sort of rocket through this a bit. So again, feel free to stop me at any point. Now, one of the main things I hear is when I've chatted to tutors before is, that parents only want one-to-one sessions. So they say, look, I'm trying to sell my groups, but just people aren't interested in groups at all. I'm just getting inquiries for one-to-one and that's it. However, I always highly disagree with that. I think there's a massive demand now for group tuition, and I actually find that parents actually seek out group tuition nowadays. And I don't know if it's because I'm following more tutors now on like Instagram and LinkedIn, but there's actually loads more people offering groups as well nowadays too. So I would say don't get sort of stuck in that way of thinking, parents only want one-to-one. I obviously focus on groups because that's what I do with my business. But if you want to do groups, you can definitely make them work 100%. Now, key thing I would say is about kind of like sticking to your strategy. So for me, when I first started out, I left in February 22, so about 18 months ago. And I started groups pretty much from the beginning. I had a few one-to-ones, obviously just to keep the sort of finances going. But I initially started with groups, and I always had in the back of my mind, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I just wanted to provide group tuition because obviously it's more lucrative and I want to be making money from this because I've left the classroom. I want to at least match my teaching salary. So I would say you have to stick to your strategy. So if you want to offer groups and that's what your goal is, don't then be tempted to just fill up your places with one-to-ones. Sometimes you might have people coming along saying, oh, I only want one-to-one. Don't be tempted to take it necessarily. Stick to your strategy and stick to your guns. Now, you might then think, well, I don't really want to sort of turn away people. People are coming and saying to me, oh, can you offer one-to-one tuition? Well, in that case, then what I would say is rather than just saying, oh, no, I'm only doing groups, try and sort of change again your approach and sort of speak to that parent and then try and sort of convince them, if you like, to go into a group rather than one-to-one. And obviously you want to sort of focus on the benefits. So this is a little bit kind of where you have to change your mindset from not an educator necessarily because you're still promoting the educational benefits, but you want to be thinking more business wise at this point. So I'm going to give you now some examples of techniques that I use. So I've had before a number of phone calls where a parent just wants one-to-one. And it might be maybe the parent just wants one-to-one, or maybe the child does. Maybe the child's scared of going into a group situation. So I've got about 12 techniques here. I'm just going to go through with you what I use, okay? So the first thing is I always say, if I'm having a telephone conversation or an email exchange with someone and they just want one-to-one, I just say, right, well, why don't you just give it a go? Okay, why don't you just have a trial session? Okay, so just try out the group, just one session, and don't offer it for free. Always do your trials as paid. You might maybe offer a slight discount, but I would just offer a normal sort of charge for my group. And I say, give it a go, but there's no long-term commitment. So even if you come along to the group, your child comes along and they don't really like it, then there's no commitment at all, not a problem. So that's the first thing. So it seems a little bit simple, but it's a good way to kind of sort of hook that person in, if you like, okay, just to give it a go. Also, what you can then say is you can obviously promote the idea that it's cheaper. So obviously groups are cheaper than one-to-one, but I also want to sort of point out and highlight, don't make them cheap, okay? Make them cheaper, because in order to do group tuition, there is actually a lot of preparation for it. So don't undersell yourself. Don't be offering them at, like £10. So for example, for me, my groups for Key Stage 4 are £35 per student. That's for an hour and a half. My Key Stage 3 ones are £30 per student for an hour and a half. So again, don't undersell yourself, but you can promote the fact that it is cheaper than one-to-one. Another little sort of cheeky tactic, if you like, is you can offer kind of one-to-one top-ups, I call it. So I always say to parents, right, if you really are insistent on having some one-to-ones, then that's not a problem. I can offer some like top-up sessions in the holidays. But I then sort of reiterate to the parent that I only do that to my group tutees. Okay, so I don't just take one-to-ones from anybody. It's just people that are in my groups. Now, I personally, when I have my teacher holidays, so I want to still have my 13 weeks a year. So I don't really want to be doing lots of one-to-ones in the holidays. However, sometimes I might just do one or two, if you like, just to kind of keep a parent happy and a student happy, because at the end of the day, it means then they're going to have, hopefully a place in my group for the whole of the academic year. So that's a good little thing. It just reassures a parent that you're there for one-to-one if needed. Right, another one is to kind of like dangle a carrot, if you like. So if again you've got a parent saying, my child's really sort of shy, really anxious, they only want one-to-one, then what I sometimes have done, especially in the past when I was first setting up, I'll say, right, why don't you just, what we'll do is, we'll just have a couple of one-to-ones, me and your child's, and you'll basically say to them, just literally there on the basis, it's like just 2 or 3 one-to-one sessions. But then that's under the proviso, if you like, that they are then going to join my group. So I had one boy last year and he's got quite bad ADHD, lovely boy, one of my favourite students that I had last year. And his mum was a bit scared of this, the fact he wouldn't be able to sit still for an hour and a half. And I said, right, let's just have like 2 or 3 one-to-ones just to get to know each other. And we started that relationship, if you like. And then he went into my group and he was then in my year 11 group for the whole year. So again, that's another thing you can do as well. Another thing you can say in terms of promoting groups is that they are great for shy students. Now, a lot of people and parents in particular say, well, my child's really shy, they're really anxious, they won't want to put their camera on, there's no way that they're going to benefit in a group, they're not going to participate, they're going to hate it. Whereas actually, I think it's a lot better for shy students rather than one-to-ones. Because with a one-to-one, it can be kind of sort of intimidating in some ways, it's just you and that one person, that child. So if they are quite shy and anxious, they can actually sort of sit in the background in the group and kind of not take a back seat, but they don't necessarily have to have their camera on, but they can still pick up all the information and, learn everything that they need to. So that's another good thing you can say. How are we doing? Am I going too fast? Are we all right? Yeah, I guess. Okay.
No, you're nailing it, and it's really inspiring.
Okay, thank you. Right, another thing then to say is you can say that they don't need their camera on. Now, this is a bit sort of contradictory because in another part later on, I'll say about the benefits of actually having cameras on in your groups. And I was chatting to Charlotte, if you don't mind me saying about this the other day. Last year I had some students which were putting cameras on, and one group, particularly my year 11 group, one of them last year, all of them by the end of the year had their cameras off. And to be honest, it was horrible, because it's horrible for me because obviously, as you know, it's like teaching with the blindfolds on. You can't sort of see, what they're understanding, what they're not, etc. However, you can kind of you have to sort of play around with this idea, I find. So this year I've put it in my terms and conditions that they have to have their cameras on, because I just prefer it. But even last night I had one of my, year 11 groups, and there's still 2 students in there that adamantly refuse to put the cameras on. And I'm just going to leave it, if you like. Everyone else does. But one of them particularly has got high anxiety, just doesn't want to do it. So you can advertise the fact they don't have to have them on, as well as, that's a benefit for some parents as well. Right, then obviously from teaching point of view, teacher learning, then peer learning is, really effective, as we know. All teachers in here, I presume, or tutors, so everyone knows, you can promote all of those benefits as well, and how they can all learn from each other, etc. So highlight that in your advertising. You can also highlight the fact that it builds their confidence. So obviously, they're coming to you to improve their sort of academic progress, but in addition to that, obviously it's really good for confidence building. And a lot of parents will be really attracted by that as well. Now, another thing is to kind of sell your group resources. Now, by this, I don't mean to, physically sell your resources for money. You can do that as well as passive income stream. But with this, so for me, for example, and I'll show you a little bit later, for my groups, I provide booklets. So at the start of the month, I email out a work booklet to all the parents and a homework booklet. And I don't do that for any one-to-one duties that I used to have, if you like. So I just sell that, if you like, I use it as a selling point that for my groups, they get this booklet as well at the start of each month. They can then complete it during the sessions, which is really good as well for students that have, say, dyslexia or literacy issues as well. So that's good. Plus also it means at the end of the month, they've then got that massive, revision resource, which they can then keep. And if they stay with you for a whole year, they've got like 10 sort of booklets by the end of the year they can use for revision. So try and think as well, what can you offer as an extra, if you like, that's going to make you stand out from other tutors, in terms of things like that. Right, another thing is record your sessions. So I use Zoom. Obviously, there's different platforms, but I use Zoom. And you can also, in your marketing and advertising, just highlight the fact that if a student can't make a group session, then you're going to record the session. So they can then, you can send it to the parent after the session. Now, that's really good as well, because sometimes some students might be ill, they might forget they've had a parents' evening or something, and they can't attend the group. However, you can then record the session and send it to them afterwards. Now, this is good for sort of two reasons. First one is because then they don't miss out on all the learning, obviously, that they've done in the session. The second thing is, though, you also then don't miss out financially, which is really important. So you should be hopefully taking your payments for your sessions up front, okay? So for me, for example, I take my payments at the beginning of the month for that month's worth of sessions. If you are then doing that and taking them up front, then if a student can't make a session, that means they've still pays for it. So you don't miss out financially, but then also they don't miss out on the learning because you can then send the recording to them. So it's a win-win for both parties, if you like. Something else you can do, we've got two more. This is the second to last one. So you can also offer maybe like a meet the tutor session. To be honest, I only had ever one person take me up on this, so maybe it might work, it might not, but again, it's some extra thing to offer. So you could ask them to book a free call, for example, through like Calendly, where they can then sort of meet you and maybe, if you know, just see if your personality suits their child, etc. So that can be another way of trying to convince someone to participate in your group. And then the last one, I think it's the last one, was also social proof. So not to be patronising, but if you're not sure what I mean there, I mean basically by providing evidence, if you like, on your social media of sort of testimonials of your groups, group sessions. Now, with your groups, make sure, if you can, you're always kind of putting little clips of what you've done in a group session on, say, your Instagram or your Facebook. Make sure, hopefully, if you're getting testimonials, which you should be trying to get from parents, that hopefully they'll mention the fact that their child was in a group session with you. So always try on all of your marketing and email marketing as well, if you're doing that, try and highlight the fact that it's always groups, if you like. So again, that kind of builds up the sort of trust factor with parents that your groups are working and really beneficial. Okay, so that's everything kind of rushed through. In terms of selling your groups, if you like, to parents. I don't know if I just sort of pause for a minute. I don't know if anyone's got any sort of questions or anything on that section there. I know there's a lot of info.
I was quite surprised that the take up of the Meet the Tutor wasn't bigger.
Yeah, me too, to be honest. To be honest, I've only sort of put it on my social media once, and I have got it on my website. I can't remember if I took it off because I wasn't getting much uptake from it. But yeah, so maybe it's because I didn't sort of promote that too much. I don't know the reason as to why, but I literally, like I've said, had one person take me up on that. So has anybody else ever done that? Yeah? Julie, you're not in, and Portia, yeah. Okay, so yeah, so maybe it does kind of work with some, it just depends possibly, I'm not sure.
I'm surprised. Wait, so parents book in without talking with you first?
Yeah, and that's another thing actually. So again, in my tutor toolkit, another thing is about providing forms. So surprisingly, because I was surprised by this as well, that a lot of parents, especially now, and I don't know if it's because maybe you know, people sort of maybe are more aware of my tuition business, but a lot of the time I have parents book up strictly purely through an online booking form, so I don't even speak to them on the phone, or it's just through an email exchange. So don't always as well assume that you have to have a conversation with a parent. So if you have a really good online booking system with a form, you can gather all the information you need there, and yeah, you don't even speak to a parent a lot of the time. So I don't know if that's because maybe obviously if your parents, you know, I'm a parent, you're obviously really busy, and you know, sometimes you just want to just get something sorted, don't you? You know, tick that off the list, right? I've got the science tutor sorted. So yeah, and not everybody actually wants to talk on the phone. It's funny.
It's really interesting. You're a little bit blown my mind with that one.
Yeah.
As a mum, I wouldn't. I really cherish that conversation.
Yeah.
That initial conversation and the getting to know you bit, I think, is really important. And I think it's so interesting that people will book in. Maybe it's to do with the group structure, that they feel like it's they sort of don't need to get as close?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I mean, you like sometimes as well, obviously when you're teaching the groups, you see the parents sort of walking around in the background. So last night I had one boy in the year 7 group, first session, and his mum kept sort of walking around, and I obviously, she's listening out, and, but I haven't actually spoke to her on the phone. She just booked him in. So maybe they do it that way, and just sort of with the trial session again, they just sort of looking around and, listening out, seeing, how it goes and what you're like. So
yeah, and we have that freedom because it's online. You've got a couple of questions in the chat. Helen wanted to know the number of students in the group.
Yeah, so I'm going to come on to that as well in a minute. But yeah, so basically at the moment, I now have up to 10 students in my groups. So I'm going to talk about that in a bit, but basically initially, when I first started, I sort of capped my groups at 6 students per group. And then I kind of thought to myself, well, why am I actually sort of capping it at 6? So then I went up to 7. And then, for example, to be honest, it's because last year, 1 year 8 group I had, and I was surprised because it was year 8 science, and I didn't think there'd be much uptake for that. But I ended up having 12 in there at one point. So 12 year 8 students. And to be honest, it still works all right. It did get to the point, to be honest, where I did personally feel like it was a bit too big. So now I've basically said 10 students is the maximum that I have per group.
Julie wanted to ask about age range, and you've just begun to speak about that as well there.
Age range, what the ages of the students? Yeah, my groups. Well, I have, again, I'll show you in a bit, but I have basically a separate group for year 7s, then separate for year 8, year 9, year 10, year 11. So I just stick to the year groups per group.
And Sophia pointed out that your marketing is really slick, and I honestly, I love how pretty your stuff is, and I wonder how that probably makes it easier to buy from you also, from a really sort of commercial point of view. It looks together, and that sort of implies that the tutoring experience will be very together as well. So credit for that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think, again, you have to obviously think about, how you're being perceived, and you want to put off, obviously, the best impression, because then, like you say, then they might think, well, hopefully they're then going to think, oh, I'm actually going to get a good tutor here as well. So all that aesthetics is important, I think.
It really is. It really is. And it's so interesting because on the one hand, you think, well, I didn't have to do that as a teacher in a classroom. I didn't have to market myself, except that you do. You have to make your classroom sparkle so that the students know what to, to take it seriously, and that learning can be lovely. Robin's asked a question in the chat, which is, when you first started, did you have minimum numbers for a group to run? I've spoken with a few tutors who have small or empty groups at the moment. So that's interesting.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I put a post on my Instagram last night actually about this. So last night, for example, I had my first year 7 session, because I only started my groups again this week, because obviously the summer I didn't tutor. And in that year 7 group, I've only got 1 boy in there at the moment. So I did an hour and a half, and because I charged £30, so I basically, earned £30 before tax. So if you're taking off your tax, it's about £20 just for that hour and a half. So it's not much money at all. However, I still run that group. I don't personally believe, I'm only going to run a group if I've got a minimum of 3 students. I still run it, because if you want to be running groups, and that's what I mean by sticking to your strategy, if you want to be running groups, you have to start the groups. Okay, so even if you only got 1 student in it, don't worry about it. Just go ahead with it. Use it as an opportunity to get to know that student more. Also, then hopefully you can then get a testimonial from that parent after a few weeks. You can put that on your social media as part of your social proof. So think of all the benefits and advantages, because basically it will fill up with time. You just got to be confident and sort of stick to your guns, if you like, which sometimes is hard. I get it. It is hard, but it will happen, and it will fill up if you stick to your strategy, in my opinion.
It's just so awesome, and it's one of the strongest messages that I'm hearing here. We launched our first QT1, our first ever training course, and Dan Wardle showed up, and he was the only participant. There were 3 facilitators to 1 learner.
Yeah.
And it was great, and he became our biggest ambassador, because we really believe that the show must go on, and you have to show up for whoever shows up for you, and there's an integrity in that as well. I'm going to come to these questions in a second, but the other thing that I've really found consistent in your messaging is boundaries. So you have up here this card that says, what's your niche? And it's really, really clear to me that you identified your niche, you created a structure, and then, as you say, you stuck to it. I don't like working in the summer holidays. It's really clear from you. Other people take 2 weeks off, Somebody said to me this week she doesn't burn out anymore, so she doesn't mind working through the summer.
Yeah.
But that freedom to set your own terms comes with the requirement of being really boundaried about them, really thought through.
100%, exactly. So like for me, 'cause again, I've got 2 small children, I don't want to work in the summer. But to be honest, I'm always still working in a way. When you're a business owner as well, I think you always are still working. So it's not a lie, but I mean, I'm not tutoring over the summer. So I'm still doing my email marketing in the background. I'm still doing all my social media posts, etc. But obviously I can do that within like an hour or so a day. So,
and that's the working on the business piece rather than the in the business piece, right?
Yeah.
Sophia's asked about, do you see each group just once per week? And if so, how do you decide the content?
Yeah, very good question. So yeah, I do see each group once a week. So I'll tell you what, let me just skip through a few slides and I'll just come to my timetable. Sorry. Here we are. Right. So for example, here, this is my current timetable for my groups. So hopefully you can see on here, I've got just 1 year 7, 1 year 8 group, but I've got 2 year 10 groups, I've got 2 year 9 groups and 2 year 11 groups. Okay. So, and I've named them A and B. So I only see group A once a week. Group B has got different students in it. But I can then repeat the content if you like. So in terms of planning, that cuts down my planning. Okay. Also, it has other benefits. For example, like you can group ability levels in different groups if you want to as well for differentiation. And yeah, you're saying, how do I decide on the content? Yeah, so that's a good point, and it's hard. And to be honest, I still struggle with that a little bit because obviously, if you're teaching purely online, which I do, you can have students from all different schools, and everyone's covering different things in different orders most of the time for science anyway. So what I do is I come up with a teaching timeline. So still very sort of schooly, if you like. I come up with a teaching timeline and I email that out to the parents at the start of the year. And I say, this is what I'm going to be covering from now until July. So I plan out the whole year ahead. However, I then say to parents, if you like now, I've just emailed out, said to all the parents for the group this year, can you just ask your child to let me know what are they studying in science from now until Christmas at school? So find out in the next couple of weeks from their teachers. And hopefully I'll get some feedback on that and then I can tweak it to try and suit as many students as possible. So it is quite hard. Plus also you're only teaching them once a week, like for an hour and a half, whereas at school in science, I'd be teaching them for at least 3 hours a week. So I can't cover all the content. It's physically impossible. So, and I was trying to do that last year. And then this year I've just realized what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take out all the key principles or all of the tricky topics from different units. And I'm going to focus on those, if you like, because obviously if you're an experienced teacher, you know the areas students struggle with. So I just do it that way instead. And I find it works okay.
I did an inset this week, and one of the things that we were talking about safe, skilled, and supported. And under the heading of skilled, there's the entire pedagogical subject knowledge, right? So knowing the content, knowing the domain, and so where you're describing pulling out key themes, I think that's really, really clever. Vicky's also pointed out at the same thing. It's really, really clever to sort of be doing something that can run parallel to lots of different teachers' curricula, so that it complements without, we know that the focus of the NTP, for example, is really asking tutors to work very closely in line with what's being delivered in the classroom. And you've taken it differently and you've said, I'm just going to use my subject knowledge to show them what they need in the long term. I'm finding lots of the messaging that you're using and the approach that you're taking very reassuring as a parent. And I think that that's a really useful signal to parents is, I know where they're going. I'll do the communication with you and with the teacher, but I understand what they need to cover by the end of the year. It's very confident. What else is coming up here? Julie, can students contact you between lessons?
Yeah, so I have like WhatsApp groups for my Key Stage 4 students, not the Key Stage 3 ones, because I was a bit unsure about that. And I check with the parents beforehand and I say, look, I'm setting up this because of safeguarding issues, So basically I'm setting up a WhatsApp group. If your child wants to be part of it, then, let me know, that's fine. So it's all transparent. But to be honest, I haven't had that much success with those. I don't know if I'm out of touch with the teenage world, because I don't know if they use Snapchat or something else. I don't know. I've got young children, so I don't know. But basically, when I've been doing stuff with WhatsApp, they don't really sort of respond that much to the WhatsApps. So I'm there if they need me through my phone and through WhatsApp, but I find they don't contact me that much, to be fair. It's more the parents, the mums. Maybe it's because it's teenagers that I'm working with. I don't know.
Julie also wants to know whether you set or mark homework.
Yeah, that's a good one. So what I'm going to do, if you don't mind, is I'll come on to that because I'll show you about homework and some strategies for that.
So it's perfect because it's a good time for us to pause and let you continue with the presentation. Just want to share with you that Sophia's loving the finances of this model. She said that she's just run some numbers and she loves what it looks like. So thank you.
Yeah, no, definitely. And, you know, not being funny, but, you know, if you have left the classroom or, you know, are trying to, then, you know, you need to be making money. And I think there's a lot of people that shy away from talking about the finances. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I want to be making money. I want to move house. You know, I want to have my teacher holidays. So, you know, have set up the model that suits you. And that's another key thing I would say is just do what suits you. You're not at school anymore, if you like, when you're doing your tuition business. It's your business, your rules. So, you know, that's the way I look at it.
I'm going to quote you on that, your business, your rules. Yeah. I love
that. Okay, right. So let's just have a look at what's your niche. So let's just reshare on that. Okay, so what's your niche? So like I say, you see a lot of this nowadays, don't you? You know, define your niche, etc. So for me, again, this is all my point of view, obviously. You know, not everyone has to agree with me, obviously. But I would say do what you love to teach. Okay, so for me, for example, I've never enjoyed teaching A-level. Okay, just really didn't like it, which to be honest is unusual, I think, for a science teacher, because I really like Key Stage 3, always have done. Whereas most science teachers that I've worked with love A-level, hate Key Stage 3. Okay, so I don't offer A-level at all because I just don't like it. So I would say in terms of your niche, do what you love to teach. Okay, so for me, it's Key Stage 3 and general science. Now, also, I would say don't try to do it all. I think there's a real sort of temptation and tendency for some tutors to think, right, I need to offer this and I've got to offer this and this and this. And oh, actually, maybe if I offer this as well, because, you know, I don't want to miss out on clients and customers, you know. But then at the end of the day, you're just going to end up burnt out. So I would say just, you know, choose something that you really enjoy, stick to that part and focus all your energies on that rather than trying to do everything. Now, that then sort of ties in nicely, I think, to sort of marketing when you're doing your marketing. So, for example, these are just two, you know, Instagram posts out from my Simply Science Instagram. And as you can see on here, what I would do is just simple posts, and I talk more about sort of marketing in my course. But one thing on here, for example, I've put GCSE Combined Science. So I highlight, you know, what it's for. So rather than just putting a picture of some sweet corn, you know, I'm putting something on there to kind of, you know, say, oh, look, this is about Combined Science or GCSE. And I focus all of my marketing on GCSE Science. So even though I teach Year 7 and Year 8, tutor Year 7 and Year 8, I don't hardly at all market for that. Because to be honest, 6 out of my 8 groups are Key Stage 4 groups. So they're the ones I want to fill. And then naturally, you'll find you'll get Key Stage 3 sort of attracted to you anyway. Yeah, so also try and get known as like the expert in your field, if you like. So again, social media and marketing is so important. And I think a lot of tutors possibly underestimate the amount of work you have to put into it, especially in the beginning, and to build up your client base. So get really visible, basically, as visible as possible, be as consistent as you can. And it is hard work, but, you know, that's how your business grows. Another thing is to highlight your niche, if you like, in all of your bios. So, for example, this is my Simply Science Tuition Instagram. And there was an animation on there, but it's gone. But hopefully you can see on the few lines down, it says online booster groups, Year 7 to 11, AQA, GCSE Combined Science. So I highlight on there, you know, what my speciality is. Because people, when they follow you, they tend to obviously read through that bio really quickly. So you want to get straight to the point. What are you offering? What's your speciality there? And key thing I think to remember is, you know, if you are enjoying what you're teaching, then your students are more likely to enjoy it, aren't they? So if I was teaching A-level, I wouldn't be really enjoying it. My students probably would just pick that up. So, you know, choose and teach what you enjoy, and they're more likely to enjoy it. So that's that bit. Right, I'm just conscious of time. So I was just going to talk about group logistics, and this links into someone's question, I think, when they were talking about homework and things. Sorry, I can't remember who asked it. So group logistics. So this, basically is all about, how do you run groups? So again, often tutors will message me on Instagram or Facebook, and they'll say, how do you actually run a group though? Like I was saying at the start of the session, I'm confident doing one-to-one tuition online, but how does a group work? So I'll just talk to you about how I do it. Now, again, as I've kind of said before, if you like, I think the beauty of this is just, again, always remember and get into that mindset of this is your business. Okay, so you can decide. So in terms of how do you run your groups? Well, I would say, how do you want to run your groups? Okay, don't be sort of stuck on thinking, right, well, so-and-so's running their groups like that. So, or so-and-so said you should run groups like this, so I should do it like this. How do you want to do it? Okay, so I'll say there's no right or wrong. So for example, with how many students per group, so like somebody asked earlier, how many do I have? And I have up to 10. Some people say that's way too big. I think the best number of students per group is 3. Absolutely fine, So if you think 3 is your ideal size, then do 3. If you think 4 is, or 5, do whatever suits you. Also, the age of the students might come into this here. So maybe we're primary school students, I don't know. Smaller groups might be better, I'm not sure. But from secondary point of view, 10's fine for me. Now, often get asked about different abilities. So again, somebody was asking about, do I cover this same stuff in the groups? So for example, with different abilities, again, going back to this timetable here, obviously with GCSE science, I'm going to get some students that say are working at a 7 and they want to get to a 9, okay? And some students that are working at a 3 and they want to get, just to a 4 or above to sort of pass. So if I'm having that mixture of students in a group, it's obviously going to be quite tricky. So sometimes that does still happen, and obviously you can differentiate with your questioning, etc. You know how to do that. But another thing you could do is like on here. So say if I've got 2 year 11 groups, one on a Tuesday, one on a Wednesday. My Tuesday group, I've kind of tried to sort of get as many of the higher ability students into that one as I can, and more of the lower ability into my Wednesday group as much as I can. So then I can still teach the same stuff, but as I'm teaching it, as you would in a classroom, you can just sort of alter your session a little bit. And the way I kind of do that is when a student signs up, I ask the parent, what's their minimum target grades or what are they working at the moment? And then I try and sort of angle them, if I can, to that particular group. So yeah, that's differentiation. Right. Another thing I get asked is, well, what days and what times, do you or should I offer my groups? And I remember one tutor messaged me a few months back saying, look, I really want to do Sundays. Have you ever had any interest in running groups on a Sunday? Or do you think there would be any interest, of running groups on a Sunday? And I replied and I said, well, I don't know, because obviously I haven't advertised that. I said, but I think the key thing is, don't really worry too much about which are the best days and times for other people. And I don't mean to sound funny here, but basically, what are the best days and times for you? So for me, I don't want to do Sundays because I want to have the weekends with my children. I don't want to work Fridays because I want to have Friday off. The evenings for me, if you like, I start at 5:30 because it means that I can pick up my children from primary school, cook the dinner. By 5:30, my husband comes home, he then does bedtime, and then I can go and tutor. So I've just literally put up the times that suit me and my lifestyle. So in terms of days and times, you can do a bit of research, but there's all sorts of times that people will be available. Some will be available in the daytime, particularly if you're tutoring overseas students. Some will be available from 4 onwards. Some prefer being in the evenings. Like, one of my groups, like I say, is from 7 till 8:30, which some of you might think, oh, that's really late. But actually, I don't, I have lots of students in those groups because they like just having a bit of downtime after school, have their dinner, and then they come to their tuition session. So with days and times, I'd say do what suits you. I'm really conscious that I'm talking at everybody. Has anybody got any questions? Sorry.
We've got some fantastic questions that I'm happy to pause and ask you them. I just want to share that it's so clear that you're not trying to tutor every child in the world.
Yeah.
And therefore you set your times and your expectations and your preferences with the confidence that a sufficient number of students will fit that set of expectations.
Yeah.
It's lovely. So Portia asked, how do you make the sessions interactive for the students? How do you encourage them to participate rather than stay on mute the whole time?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I suppose it's just like in the classroom, you're going to get some students which are shyer than others. Some you're going to get really vocal and they love putting their hands up, etc. So I think just use your teaching strategies by trying to sort of encourage people. To be honest, I do sort of pick people in sessions, but I know I'm aware of their personalities more now. So for example, or if there's a certain question I know it's going to be tricky for one, or if there's an easy question, I'll particularly pick that student which I know is unconfident, because I know pretty much they're going to get that one right. So I just try and ask questions as much as possible. So rather than, to be honest, talking like in the chats, I really like it to be like a very sort of verbal session. So like we are now, but obviously I know I'm talking all the time, but cameras on, they're talking to me, I'm talking to them, and really sort of inviting them and asking them what are their ideas, etc. So definitely not a lecture style for my sessions anyway. So that's how I get them involved. I just try and encourage them as much as possible. Okay, right. So days and times. So we did that. Right. How long should the sessions be? So that's another question sometimes get asked. Should I be offering my group sessions as an hour? And again, everyone's different. So some people offer group sessions 45 minutes. Some offer them for an hour, some hour and 15 minutes, some an hour and a half. So for me, I offer mine are an hour and a half, because it's two reasons really. First one is because I have quite large groups. As you know, in the classroom, if you like with secondary anyway, you're getting the students into the classroom, get them settled, get them set up for work. And by the time you've done that, it's like 10 minutes of the lesson gone anyway. So if I set them up for an hour and a half, it means like the first 10 minutes or so of the session is just getting everyone in, saying hello, making sure everyone's got what they need. Then we start getting into the session, and then the last sort of 5-10 minutes are sort of wrapping up, taking any questions, etc. So I find that works well. Also, psychologically, I think it makes it, or for me, I felt then I could charge a bit more, if you like, for my group. So like I say, they're not that cheap. They're not really expensive, but not that cheap. They're £35 for Key Stage 4. But for a parent, I think, right, I'm getting £35, but an hour and a half. Not an hour, but an hour and a half. So even though it's in a group. So again, I just felt that would psychologically, encourage parents to sign up. So again, constant message from me is, how long do you want them to be? Okay, so you decide what's best for you. So some people might find an hour and a half too long. I also get asked, do you have a break? So by that, either in the session, in the hour and a half session, someone asked me that before, and also in between sessions. So if you remember from my timetable, I basically tutor 3 hours back to back. So I don't have a break in between. I do one full session, then straight away I, open up the other Zoom link to do the other session. And I don't mind that. That suits me fine. But one of my friends, she said that she couldn't do that. She needs to have a little break in between, so that's fine. So again, set it up however you like, in terms of having breaks or just doing it back to back. So it's up to you. That's that. Yeah, another thing is, you can record your sessions. So I think I mentioned that before. So again, with group logistics, always make sure you can record your sessions, because then you can send them afterwards so people don't miss out. Another really key thing is about having a dual screen. So when I first started out, I remember back in February 22, I literally had this old little table, because I tutor in my daughter's bedroom here. This is my daughter's bedroom, just got a fake background. So I haven't got an office or anything. So I had a little table and I had my old laptop, and I was tutoring groups on just this little laptop screen. And I was trying to basically look at the students, open up the PowerPoint, open up Kahoot or whatever, and trying to do it all on one screen. And it just is a bit of a nightmare, especially once you start getting a few students in your groups. So definitely, I would say, if you haven't already got one, a dual screen is a must. So now I've got this dual screen here, and it makes my life so much easier. So that's good in terms of groups. Cameras and mics on, I'm going to skim through that because we kind of talked about that quite a bit, I'd say, but try and encourage them as much as you can to have those on, if you can, which is sometimes tricky. And again, somebody asked, sorry, again, I've forgotten who asked, but how do you make sure you're getting everyone involved? So again, just providing that, like I said, on the sort of safe space for everybody, just like you do in the classroom, making sure that everyone feels comfortable and confident enough to get involved in the sessions, and trying to sort of tease them as much as you can to get involved. Oh yeah, another one is encourage group work. So again, before I've got asked, well, how do you do this? Well, using like breakout rooms, and I think most people know about them now, but I know I have had a couple of people ask me before, well, what's a breakout room? So again, on Zoom, use your breakout rooms, particularly if you have long sessions, like mine are an hour and a half. It can be a long session. Like even now it's 45 minutes in this session. It feels quite long, doesn't it? So imagine another 45 minutes after this of, pure science, doing maybe not an interesting topic. So if you have group work, you can set up your breakout rooms, get them to do a little bit of independent work, or in pairs or in groups. Plus, another advantage of that is you can then pop into those breakout rooms and just speak to, say, 2 students on their own. So they feel like they're getting a bit of one-to-one then as well, which is great for the student, and also then the parents sees that as well, which is good. Also, some students that are quite shy, once you go into the breakout room, you'll find they'll be really talkative. So it's good to sort of help perform that relationship as well. So group work's good. And just remember, if the student is happy, then the parent's obviously going to be happy. And if the parent's happy, then they're going to keep paying you. So, you've got to basically think of it in this sense as well. Obviously, the student's got to make progress, but they've got to enjoy the session. They've got to come out of the session most of the time, not always, but, saying, oh, yeah, that was good. Or, I don't mind, coming back next week. And that's, really what you want to try and do as well. Right. Any questions at this point? We've only got 10 minutes. I've got one more thing left, I think.
Absolutely fantastic. Vicky, we'll discuss dual screens in the community. If you wouldn't mind asking the question there, I'm sure Helen Osman will write you a small essay. And I think lots of us are loving the idea of breakouts for differentiation, for engagement, and for creating relationship. And that really effective use of peer-to-peer learning. So using group works in a really intentional way, rather than trying to just have, one-to-one tuition 10 times over in an hour and a half. You're really pointing them at each other. I think that's really awesome. Anything else that I missed there that we want to contribute before? Okay, Rysia, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, right. So we're nearly there, guys. Right, marking, feedback, and homework. Okay, so with this, now I'll just say as well, remember that not all parents want the same thing. Okay, so I think, I don't know, when I first started, I thought, right, I'm going to have to provide marking. I'm going to have to do individual feedback, because that's what parents want. But actually, you find that not everybody wants the same thing. Okay, some parents really want all of that. Other parents don't mind if they don't have that. So everyone's different. Now, again, you'll notice a common theme. I was just saying, what do you want to do? Okay, so what do you want to do with your business, your tuition business? How do you want to run it in terms of, say, marking and feedback and homework? So, for example, with me, the worst bit of teaching for me was marking exercise books. I hated it. Okay, so I don't mind marking tests, but I always hate marking exercise books. It takes hours. So I don't want to be doing marking, just like I don't want to be doing A-level. So I don't mark any students' works in my groups. Okay, outside of the sessions. This is okay. So I'm going to talk to you about a couple of workarounds for that. Okay, so you might get possibly some parents that ask you, oh, I want to have something marked. To be honest, I've never had that asked to me, but I've heard other people say it, and other people say, well, actually, yeah, that's fine, but I will be charging you extra for that. I don't know how comfortable you feel doing that, but if you are providing an extra service on top of what you're originally offering, then don't be afraid of charging extra. So you can do that. However, workarounds. So for me, obviously, as a teacher and as a parent, well, you want to have feedback. Okay, you want to have some sort of marking. So it is a really important part of your sessions. So the workarounds that I do is this is one of them. So Tutorbird. I don't know if anyone in here uses Tutorbird. Yeah, got a few people nodding. Yeah, or Tutor Cruncher. I don't know. I've never used it, but I use Tutorbird. And don't know if you're aware, but at the end of the session, basically, you can add some group notes to the end of the session. So I'll show you what I mean. So there's a little screenshot here. So at the end of one group, basically, what I do is I go into Tutorbird and I type in basically what do we do in that session, give a bit of feedback. I put the link for the lesson recording, any resources, etc. And then, like it says at the bottom there, I just click all parent emails and I click send. So say, for example, if you've got like 10 people in a group, you don't want to be sending out 10 individual emails after that session, or 10 WhatsApps or 10 text messages for feedback. So you can literally just do it like that and click send. That way, every single parent from that group is getting some feedback, and you've sort of covered yourself there. Now, I used to worry and think, well, surely that's not enough feedback, because you're so used to giving so much feedback at school, aren't you? And diagnostic feedback, everything. But I actually have had good comments, and a few of my testimonials, parents have actually said, gives regular feedback every week, blah, 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 really good. So actually, it seems to be fine. Now, you sometimes might have an exception to that. So, for example, there's one parent and she said to me, can I have some more regular feedback for my child, sorry. And I said, yep, not a problem. So rather than doing it for everybody, I then just at the end of each month used to send like a long email, if you like, just to that one parent for her son. So you can get around it. You don't have to do it for everyone. Right. I think someone asked about homework. And basically, yeah, this is what I do for homework. So because I don't want to do marking, what I do is I provide homework to every student in the group, but I make the homework optional. And also I do it self-assessed booklets. So just like with my work booklets, if you like, that they use in the sessions, I give them a homework booklet and a mark scheme. And I say it's optional because, again, I think, what I was saying, don't assume what parents want, because some parents actually don't want their child to have any extra homework. They might be really stressed with science at school as it is, let's say, and they don't want to be piling on extra homework from the tutor because it's going to stress their child out even more. Whereas other parents obviously want extra homework, so if you provide the optional homework, then that sort of suits everybody. And if it's self-assessed, obviously you don't have to mark it then. So, the student can mark it. So, for example, this is one of my homework booklets for science. So what I do is I literally put 2 past exam questions from TestBase on there, and it links directly to what I've done in that session. And that way they get a past exam question practice. It's linked directly to the session, plus it's in a booklet. They can use it for revision later. And then I give them an answer booklet next to that, and then they can check their own answers, and it's directly from the mark scheme, so they can see exactly what the examiners are looking for, and they can get used to that. So that's a good workaround, and I haven't had any complaints about homework, touch wood, so that's good. Yeah, another thing, again, as you know, as teachers, you can give feedback during the sessions. So it doesn't always have to be marked work. You can give verbal feedback as well in the sessions. Sometimes maybe if you've set an exam question, you can get 1 or 2 students to read them out if they feel comfortable doing that, and you can give verbal feedback, or you can get a student to share their screen and you can mark it with your pen, like your, what do you call it, the graphics pad pen. So you can do it that way as well. Which is that, marking work during the session. Sorry, I'm rushing because of time. And then again, just remember, that you can say no. So if a parent asks you and they want, say, I don't know, for English, like essays marking every week. I'm sorry, I'm making this up because I don't know. But, then you can say no. You can just say, well, I'm sorry, I don't provide that as part of my tuition package. Or if you do want that, it'll cost you so and so amount. And if they'll either then stick with you or they'll go and find another tutor, and that's fine. Because at the end of the day, you want to be enjoying your tutoring business. You want to be enjoying your job. Maybe that's why, I don't know, you left the classroom. Like for me, it was, I wanted to do, something my way, and you can do that now. So, just stick to what's best for you. Right. So the last bit on there is literally just about not overlooking Key Stage 3. So rather than going through it, I'll just say, that Key Stage 3 is actually, I found to be really popular. So, if you're not offering Key Stage 3 in your secondary and you like teaching it, then I think there's a big market out there for it. So I wouldn't avoid it, if you enjoy it.
That's a really juicy topic. Can we come back and do that another time, please?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Awesome. And you must hear that there was a question in the chat just now. Have you ever considered doing digital homework stuff? And Julie says Seneca Learning.
Yeah, we use Seneca at my old school. So yeah, I've considered it, but again, to be honest, it's something else that I'd have to sort of check and follow up on. So at the moment, I don't want to do that because I've just haven't got the time. I'm, busy setting up this business, plus, carrying on with my science business. So I just, at the moment, I haven't got the time for that. So
which is a perfect segue into telling us about the course that you've created.
Yes. Okay. So let me just skip.
And don't be shy. We want to know.
Okay. So thank you everybody for listening so patiently, and I know there's been a lot of stuff thrown at you today, but I hope you found it useful. So again, here comes the self-promotion bit, the obligatory self-promotion at the end. So basically, as you know, I'm science tutor, but also now what I've been doing since about sort of March time is I've created this thing called the Tutor Toolkit. So some of you I know are aware of it because some of you have bought it that are here in the room. So thank you to those people. And basically what it is, if you go into my website, www.thetutortoolkit.com, then you can see this on there. And basically I can show you how to earn an average £5,000 a month as an online tutor. Now, that's not just a figure that I've pulled out of thin air, because like somebody said, they did the calculations from my groups earlier. And say if I am having 10 students per group, I'm not there yet, but I've got 8 groups a week. You know, if you work out the numbers, it's more than possible to earn at least £5,000 a month doing online tuition, at least. So with that, basically what I've done is I've created like an online course. So it's a self-led course. And if you go onto the website, you'll see there's 10 different toolkits. So for example, today's session, I've taken from my, I think it's toolkit 7, my group tuition toolkit. So that's everything that's in that toolkit today crammed into an hour, okay? But I've also got 9 other toolkits on 9 other areas there. So you can just go onto that website and you can just purchase it and have access to it straight away. And it's an online course, so you can basically work through it at your own pace. Or you can buy the whole course as well. So that's that. So that's if you want to do sort of self-directed kind of learning, etc. However, the other big thing I've got is this, which is the Tutor Toolkit Academy. So this is my brand new kind of like beta program. So I've never run this before. So I've been doing my online Tutor Toolkit. However, now I'm also setting up my academy, and this has obviously been accredited by Julia and the qualified tutor, which I'm really pleased with. So it's an accredited course, and it begins in just over 3 weeks' time. So on the 29th of September. And what it is going to be is it's basically like a hybrid course. So it covers everything that's in my Tutor Toolkit online course, plus also live sessions. So we'll have a live session, and it's on Fridays from 11 till 12:30. And that starts, like I said, I think it's 29th of September. So we meet once a week online on Zoom for an hour and a half. And we basically, there's a program which I'm following. So again, it's on my website. And I'll work you through everything that I've learned since starting my own tuition business, and all the sort of tips and tricks that I can give you that I've learned, and sort of teach you everything that you need to know in terms of setting up your own business and earning at least, £5 a month. And in addition to that, the last thing is that basically there's an online Facebook community, the Tutor Toolkit Tribe. So we're all going to be on there. There's only space for up to 10 tutors, so I'm keeping it small, so that then I can give as much bespoke help as I can to everybody. And then also you'll have WhatsApp access to me for 3 months, unlimited. So you can ask me any questions at any point, and I can help and sort of be your sort of coach in your pocket. So that's that, the promotion. There you go.
Well, I'm going to share some coaching advice with you. Please don't apologize for promoting yourself.
Thank you. Yeah.
I honestly, I was just saying to Odette, who's sitting here next to me.
Hello. Rysia, that was amazing.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. You're all amazing. Rysia, that was superb.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You should be really proud of yourselves. Yeah. And I can see, oh, look at Helen in the garden. Look at that. You should be really proud of yourself. And I think everybody on here, and there have been loads of people watching on YouTube as well, just so you know, that are not members, because only members get access to questions and be active in here. Yes, Elizabeth, thumbs up. Thank you. Yeah, really amazing.
We really have the feeling, we're really proud to be able to accredit your course, because you and I went through a whole process of what does transformational training look like, and this was the model that really hit the spot. And where you're saying, access to you on WhatsApp for coaching, I think that's really, really awesome. What a fresh approach to making sure that tutors have the support they need without being overwhelmed and inundated. It's really light. Is there any feedback that you guys want to give Rysia before we close the session? Because I think a little bit of positivity to boost our Wednesday is a great idea. Robin, go ahead. Thank you. Robin said it was a fantastic session. Go ahead, unmute yourselves and give her some feedback and share your insights, please. The best way to give back to our teachers is to share with them what you've learned.
definitely.
Julie, what's your biggest takeaway?
I don't have to do homework.
Yeah.
Portia, what's your biggest takeaway?
I've written like 3 pages of notes. It's crazy. I never write notes.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. Like so many things. I can't pinpoint one thing. It's been really, really helpful. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Robin, what's your biggest takeaway?
No minimum numbers. Just giving it a go and just get started. So I thought that was really promising.
Charlotte, what's your biggest takeaway?
I think it was like the reframing. So when parents are asking for one-to-ones, rather than just putting a stop to that conversation, to actually just reframe it. And there's kind of quite a few ways that you could still kind of potentially have them as a client.
Definitely.
Fantastic. Who haven't I asked? Kanza, what's your biggest takeaway?
Hi all. So my biggest takeaway is that since it's our own business, so there's no right or wrong here. There's absolutely, we need to follow things according to our flexibility, suitability, and every parent is different. So we need to, customize our things, customize our schedule and our offerings according to the variety of parents that we have.
Definitely.
Amelie, what's your biggest takeaway?
The same, about making the business what I want rather than just trying to do whatever the parents want, whatever someone asks me to do, just doing what they want rather than what suits me.
100%.
That's a really big deal. Lindsay, what's your biggest takeaway?
I think the same for me. It's so clear that whenever I've spoken to Rysia, and the session today is about empowering you to feel like you are designing something that's going to work for you with what you're passionate in and what you're enthusiastic about teaching, and how you manage to, I guess, come across to parents and the community and the stakeholders who invest in you is about what you feel is in your heart and what you can deliver and what you can deliver well from the classroom, but translating that into a business that's going to work for you and the people who invest in you.
So strong. Elizabeth, what's your biggest takeaway?
My kind of boss.
That's awesome. Being your own boss, and you put it in the chat at the same time.
Yeah.
I really, really appreciate that. Sophia, Jenny, Farwa, this is your last chance to share with us. Okay.
Hi, it's Sophia. Sorry. I had been here. My hair looks terrible today, so I can't show you my fringe. It's a bad situation. I just want to say thank you to Rysia. It's just so refreshing. I mean, I was putting comments in there. Her marketing is so slick. And I'm a science teacher too. And I've been following you, watching on Instagram and stuff. The know, like, and trust is there. I love the way, she's been so open about everything, setting things up. And she's really looked at that end goal. And I think a lot of people have echoed this. This is how I want it to look. This is when I'm available, and really taking ownership of the fact that you're not in a classroom anymore. This is your business. And I absolutely love that. And it's really refreshing. I know, Julie, you know that my ups and downs, and that you have those kind of low times in the business, the back end of summer. And it's just reaffirmed everything of like, yeah, this can look however you want it to look, and people need it. It's just such high quality stuff. So thank you. It's amazing. Thank you, Rysia.
Oh, thank you.
Your business, your rules.
Woo! Yeah, exactly. Your business, your rules. And just to say, it's also like not that I totally as well get overwhelmed at times, and and things don't go right for me either. So it's not to say that it's all smooth sailing, because it isn't. But just, I think, like you say, just have everything, like your end goal, like someone was just saying, in sight, and just try and stick to that as much as you can, even through the tough times when it's not working. Just keep pushing.
Awesome. I think this was a really generous session. I'm so proud that this is what QT looks like this year. And anything else that I can do to support you, Rysia, and everybody in the room, please let us know. Thanks so much for showing up today.
Thank you.
Seeing you tomorrow, QT Chats, 11 a.m. I'll
Cool.
host you a conversation then. Looking forward to it.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Elizabeth, thanks, Charlotte. Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, Kanza. Thanks, Amelie. Thanks, Jenny.
Just sent you a message. Jenny May was saying that she was weeping through that. at the end, just feeling very overwhelmed and inundated. She sent it as a direct message to me, so I'm trying to handhold a little bit.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I just thought you should know that she reached out.
That's awesome. Thank you.
But there we go. No worries. I'm gonna go get some headache pills because they're hammering in my house.
Oh, that's why you're hiding in the garden.
Well, that and it's blooming hot.
Blooming hot.
I'm not gonna go work in my conservatory. Well, I can teach in my garden. Well, I can't teach in my garden. The kids will be around later, but there we go.
Bye, love.
Cool, yeah.
See you later.